like a Brahmin thread. Pretty unusual. And his wife, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the chief magistrate in Puri, he had privileges and she had privileges as his wife. So when the Rath Yatra cart was moving along Grand Road, because their house was right along the side of Grand Road, it stopped. Jagannath cart stopped right in front of their house. So she took it as a sign and took the child, newly born child. Maybe because he was born in February and Rath Yatra's in July or something like that. So just a few months old. Placed the child right on the cart, just below Lord Jagannath, and a garland of Jagannath fell as she placed the child there and circled around him. So that was a sign. This is the ray of Vishnu that he was hoping for. My introduction to BhaktiSiddanta Sarasvati Thakur came as you see on the screen, whoops, no, you don't see it, BTG article in 1969. What happened? There it is. 1969. So I was a college kid. And in the Back to Godhead magazine of that year, or that month, Prabhupada approved that some of the articles of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, BhaktiSiddanta, could be published in the Back to Godhead magazine. So a feature article for a particular issue was the Vedanta, its morphology and ontology. What does that mean? So this is personal, so I'll recite it. I got a copy of the magazine from Burijan Prabhu. Burijan Prabhu, we went to the same school together. He was 1 year older than me. I was like a sophomore in college, junior in college, and he was a senior. And we were having lunch together in the student union, and just in the course of the conversation, he just handed me this magazine. The magazine, at that time, it wasn't this full color thing that we have now today. It was just a mimeographed copy, like, you turn a tumbler and pages come out, and that was the system of, and then they stapled them together, and that was the Back to Godhead magazine, because that's what the devotees could afford. So I received the magazine, but I didn't read it right away. I just was carrying it around with me. And the course of time, because it was carrying around with me, means the way that I carried my books, I had a stack of books, a clipboard, and then this was kind of just below the stack of books in front of the top of the clipboard. Back to Godhead magazine. I kept it because it came from Burijan. I didn't know anything about what was inside. And some time passed later, someone said they saw the magazine. And they, confronted me and said, "You're not into that, are you?" And I said, "Into what?" He said, "Well, you don't want to be into that. You don't want to be into that." So I said, I want to read the magazine. So I started reading the magazine. And I was reading it, I remember clearly, I was reading the magazine in a study space that I had for myself. It took me 3 hours to go through the magazine, to go through the article, because the language was so high. So like the introduction, the title, I had to look up 3 words in the title. What's Vedanta? What's morphology? What's ontology? And then his language is very high. And that's, 3 hours, underlining things and circle things and writing things in the margin. And 3 hours later, I reached the conclusion that I don't understand it. And the second conclusion was, my conscience, at 3 hours passed, I didn't even feel it. It was so, he elevated me to a place that I had never experienced before. And I felt a lot of faith in him. Although we never met, I was just reading an article that I couldn't understand. But the spirituality of what he had written was so powerful. Even I didn't understand it. It was powerful. So since that time and today, a great, great, great respect for BhaktiSiddanta. Naturally. And that respect led to, and that article led to learning something more about Prabhupada and so forth and so on. So here's a little, on the left-hand side, here's what it says about what this publication was. He gave a lecture. BhaktiSiddanta Sarasvati Thakur gave a lecture in August 1933 at the Sarasvati Assembly Hall of the Sri Gaudiya Math in Calcutta on the occasion of the appearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And the title that was given by BhaktiSiddanta was very similar to the title of something that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote, the Bhagavad, its philosophy, ethics, and theology. So he just took, morphology and ontology and Vedanta. So, his language and Bhaktivinoda Thakur made his language easily accessible to people. And BhaktiSiddanta didn't try to do that. He wanted to be very precise, and so he was. Originally an English lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam delivered in Dijnapur, 1869. The Bhagavad, its philosophy, ethics, and theology explained the flaws of Orthodox Hinduism as well as the philosophy of the newly formed Brahmo Samaj. So they're both kind of iconoclast. They both, were a little bit, there was a misunderstanding or false propaganda or some ism that just wasn't disciplic succession oriented. And they knew what it was, and they would say what it was, and they would say what the flaws were. Because, protection of people that didn't know any better. So this is when this magazine, or this little booklet, I subsequently was able to receive a copy of the little booklet because it was published originally by Gaudiya Math, and then they reprinted it, and so this is what it looks like. Notice on the inside, there's that little circle. Here's the details of what's in the circle in Bengali. In case you don't read Bengali, here's what it says in English. This is the logo of the Gaudiya Math. And on the left side is the Vidhi Marg. The right side is Raga Marg. Vidhi means rules and regulations. So there is Lakshmi Narayan, and the process of worship is the deity worship, the archana. You see below there's a bell and there's some incense. And the worship following of Lord Chaitanya, worship according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi. You've heard this, the Pancharatras. It's one of the scriptural texts that gives how to do things in deity worship. And then on the right side, there's Radha Krishna under a tree, and there's the Bhagavatam in comparison to the Pancharatra. And then on the lower right side, there's Kirtan. Notice the Kirtan shows Mridanga, and it also shows a printing press, because that was the Brihat Mridanga was the printing press. That was BhaktiSiddhanta's language, which Prabhupada also incorporated. And then you see around the inside, the very center, it's Nama. And then, of course, it's in Bengali, but the 6 opulences of Bhagavan are identified. So Bhagavan is one who has all opulences in full, and there's 6 in number, and there's the names. Yasha is at the top, that's fame. Shri is beauty. Jnana is knowledge. Below that is Vairagya. And then Aishwarya, majesty, and Virya, strength. 6 opulences of Bhagavan. That's his logo. Guess who designed it? BhaktiSiddanta himself. And that was on the cover of this particular publication. A little bit of the history, we heard a little bit about his birth. As he grew up, there was a circumstance that happened when his father had deities, and his son liked mangoes at the mango season, so he took a mango and ate the mango before it was offered. And then his father, mildly admonished him, "Oh, this isn't good. The mango wasn't offered yet to the deity." And he took a vow from 3 years old. I'm an offender. I won't eat mango for the rest of my life. So later, he's the Charya, and it's mango season in West Bengal. And when people would bring him, disciples would bring him a ripe mango, he'd decline, saying, "I'm an offender." 3 years old. Think about some child that's 3 years old doing something like that. Here's a deity. When he was 7 years old, his father, Bhaktivinoda, gave him a kurma deity. And he worshipped this kurma deity. Now, kurma brings stability. So he worshipped the deity. And when he was young, from the time he was young, he had this special kind of memory, a didactic memory, which means whatever he read, he would remember it verbatim. And he read a lot. And so he could he was called the living encyclopedia because he knew everything about everything, because whatever he read, he remembered. I know some people, I'm one of them, that's not the case. When he was 7 years old, he memorized the entire Bhagavad Gita. He was showing his ray of Vishnu capacity. When he was 13, his father gave him Nrsinga mantra and a Nrsinga deity as Mahamantra and Japa beads. No, the father doesn't give Diksha to his son. So he didn't give him formal Diksha, but he gave him Mahamantra and Nrsinga mantra and Nrsinga deity. This is a nice photograph, painting of Jagannath Das Babaji. And because Jagannath Das Babaji was the guru of BhaktiSiddhanta's guru. So our disciplic succession. Prabhupada, BhaktiSiddhanta, Gorkishore Das Babaji, Jagannath Das Babaji. So when he was 11 years old, he won a scholarship and a title of Siddhanta Sarasvati because he was at the age of 11, he was the most renowned scholar in astrology. I'll say it again. At the age of 11, in the whole of India, there's a few astrologers in India. He was the most renowned astrologer in all of India. And they awarded him this Siddhanta Saraswati title. However, when he was 18, he gave it up. This was during his college days, and with the statement, "My life is for the single-minded cultivation of the teachings of Sri Chaitanya." So he stopped astrology. But down below, you see Jagannath Das Babaji. He made a request, and that is, the Vaishnav calendar there in Navadvip is called the Panjika, and it was like an almanac indicating the months, the lunar fortnights, the days, lunar days, stars, constellations, asterisms, nakshatras. Make a comprehensive chart that goes into the future and tells everybody. So it's their calendar, the Vaishnav calendar. We say Vaishnav calendar, but he did it when he was 18. Now he was eligible to go to college, so he went to college. And imagine being his professor. And he decided to not graduate from college because a young Indian boy graduating from college was expected from mom and dad. Get married, right? He didn't want to get married, so instead he became a librarian. For 10 years, he was a librarian for the king of Tripura, and he read every book in the library. And he had perfect memory. He did that. There was a relationship because the king of Tripura was a Vaishnava. I mean, a little chubby fellow, but he was a Vaishnava, and BhaktiSiddanta respected him for that, and they got along very well. However, some years later, he went to Puri to visit his father because his father at that time was living in Jagannath Puri. Well, he was, the chief magistrate, so he was living in Jagannath Puri. When he was staying with his father, he came to know about this fellow. You see his photograph here. Radha Ramana Charana Das. Radha Ramana Charana Das Babaji. So Radharaman Charana Das Babaji, had his bhajan place right next to the samadhi of Haridas Thakur, which was presumptuous, like placing himself on a caliber of Haridas Thakur. And he had two practices that BhaktiSiddanta confronted him with. One of them was he created a different mantra besides the Hare Krishna mantra. Nitai Gaur Radhe Sham, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. And he engaged his followers in chanting the mantra. And when it was leading the followers, the second deviation was he was training his follower to become a gopi. And the way his system was, he had him dress as a gopi or a lady, and then was to take on the affections of the movements of and the feelings of a young gopi, which is totally bogus. So BhaktiSiddanta came to know of these two practices, and he confronted him, blasted him. And this man was popular, living next to Haridas Thakur, and had many followers, and people didn't know their ankle from their elbow, so they didn't know what's what. So created a big disturbance, and such a big disturbance that this is now when he's 31 years old. Bhakti Vinod Thakur said, you created such a disturbance here. Why don't you go back to Mayapur and just chant Hare Krishna? So he did. He went back to Mayapur and chanted Hare Krishna. Let's see. Yeah. 1 billion names, which was 3 times 64 rounds daily, 3 times 64 rounds daily for 9 years. For 9 years. There's the place where he sat. No, it's inhuman. 9 years. You know, some of you have had taken part in a japa retreat, and like CNJ. And, we have our 64 round day. This is 3 times 64 rounds every day for 9 years. 5 minutes a round. That's another inhuman, Superman for 9 years. So as you see, they made a little mandir, a place where he did his chanting, just, under a tree. And then now they have a murti, because this then became his headquarters, Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. That's where it was. And when he completed his chanting, he wanted to establish a temple. So there are two very interesting, different but very interesting narrations of how this happened. There's the deities, Gandharvika, Giridhari, and Mahaprabhu. Gandharvika, Giridhari, and Mahaprabhu. Jananivas, some of you know who he is. He is the head pujari in Mayapur. He tells the following story. When the devotees founded the Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, BhaktiSiddanta went with some devotees to Jaipur to purchase deities from there. When they went to the shop to see what deities were being sold, the seller told them, "Over there, your deities are standing in the corner." BhaktiSiddanta asked, "How do you know these are my deities?" "Last night I had a dream. These deities came to me in a dream and said, 'Tomorrow a Mahapurush will come here and will want to buy deities from you. We want him to serve us. So please take them. I want to give them to you.'" And so Gandharvika and Giridhari were installed that same day. BhaktiSiddanta accepted sannyas right there in Mayapur. Now, there's another Pandit at the Chaitanya Gaudiya Math that narrates a little differently, but it's still very nice. For, this 9-year vrata that he engaged in, the next year, for the purpose of establishing Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, BhaktiSiddanta went with some devotees to Jaipur to bring deities from there. They went to several shops to see what deities were available, and BhaktiSiddanta expressed his attraction for a particular set of Radha Krishna deities. The shopkeeper said that these deities had been sold already, so he could not take them. BhaktiSiddanta left and returned to his room. That evening, BhaktiSiddanta had a dream of the same deities, instructing him that he needs to return to the same shopkeeper and install the deities in Mayapur. When he told the shopkeeper about the dream, the shopkeeper accepted and said he could take the deity. Transcendental or transcendental, take your choice. So there's the deities again. And I prepared a little document. And there's those of you that are part of a WhatsApp group, you'll have already received it in your WhatsApp. If you haven't received it, speak to Narottam and he'll see that you get a copy. It's a document that has the 4 sampradayas teachings, because BhaktiSiddanta established the temple of the deities is not big. It's a kind of a freestanding temple, and on the 4 corners of the temple, he established murtis of each of the 4 sampradaya acharyas. You with me? It's important. 4 sampradaya acharyas. Now, over a period of years, the local, devotees have changed the original ones and put some newer ones, and then changed those ones and put some newer ones. But it's the same principle, because it's BhaktiSiddhanta's principle that he wrote a book about the life and teachings of the 4 acharyas. His message in this book had several messages. He gives the whole biography of each of the 4 principal acharyas, the essential teachings, and I'm going to give you the list of those essential teachings. But the document that you should have received, or if you haven't received it, you will receive it. It gives what the 4. But look, he said, BhaktiSiddanta said, Lord Chaitanya drew 2 principal teachings from each of the 4 sampradayas and incorporated in his teachings. That's what he's written. Now, Lord Chaitanya was not a copycat. He just, the 4 sampradayas emphasize certain things. We'll go there in just a moment. Here's an illustration of the 4 sampradaya acharyas: Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vallabhacharya, and Nimbarkacharya, the 4 sampradaya acharyas. And here's the teaching from Madhva: complete defeat of Mayavad philosophy, serving the deity of Krishna, accepting the deity as an eternal spiritual being. Ramanujacharya, the conception of bhakti unpolluted by karma. Again, that's certainly Lord Chaitanya's teaching. And service to the devotees, Vaishnava Seva. And in the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, they have a strong emphasis on Ragamarg and the sentiment of exclusive dependence on Krishna. It's not like Lord Chaitanya cut and paste from their Sampradaya his teachings, but those are his teachings. And then Nimbarkacharya, the necessity of taking shelter of Radha and the high esteem for the gopis' love for Krishna. Now there's many nice stories. Here's one nice story. During the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was a proud Big Vijay Pandit. Big Vijay Pandit means he traveled around here and there, and he wanted to engage in debate, and that was his thing. So Jiva Goswami, because Lord Chaitanya didn't want to engage in debate with people, so Jiva Goswami debated him. Took 7 days, and he pinned him. And in the end, this young Pandit became a Vaishnava. Instead of being a wrangler, scholar, he became a Vaishnava. Later, he became connected with the Nimbarka Sampradaya by the influence of Jiva Goswami. It's a very nice detail. So there's the 4. The document that you have has more details. Please don't take a picture, because you can just look at the document. You got everything. Thank you. Including, more details about what each of the sampradayas have to say in essence, besides those two. And in his maturing years, he became very prolific in many ways. Publications, monthly publications in Bengali and in English and in Hindi, and books and articles and essays and so many writings. One of his contributions was utilizing modern creations, modern technology in Krishna's service. The Yukta Vairagya principle. Some of you know there's an important verse from Scripture. Renunciation is incomplete if there's something in relation to Hari that's rejected, and you discard it. So what's not in relation to Hari? Everything is in relation to Hari. So Palgo Vairagya is to reject things. Proper renunciation is to utilize things in Krishna's service. So here's an example. This is a photograph of BhaktiSiddanta riding not just in a car, because sannyasis traditionally wouldn't ride in a conveyance of any kind, what to speak of an automobile. And this isn't just an automobile, this is a convertible. There was like no such thing. That was like super rare. And that, and wearing a sewn jacket, because sannyasis are not supposed to do such things. And riding through the streets of Vrindavan and waving to everybody. Yukta Vairagya. And the printing press, and et cetera, using that which is from Krishna in Krishna's service. And that's renunciation that's complete. Very strong proponent, sending his followers to London, crossing the ocean, and that was a taboo for sannyasis. But he arranged it. He was a iconoclast. He broke models based upon Lord Chaitanya's teachings, not just for the sake of breaking a model or a common practice of the time. When there are many portraits, photography was another thing that he accepted. Any photograph, you'll see him with books. Or this one's in Bengali, but a nice big Bengali book sitting on his lap, and as a portrait. Sometimes he would dress very fancy, with nice garland and so forth and so on. Or in his sitting room in Mayapur, again with a book on his lap, because it wasn't just for show, it was how he lived his life. And he wanted people to understand how important this was. So here's a nice photograph of literally 104 years ago, the place where Prabhupada first met BhaktiSiddanta. It was on a rooftop in Calcutta. You know the story. A friend of his said, "Please come meet this sadhu." Prabhupada said, "No. My father used to invite sadhus to her home, and they were all not sadhus at all. And I wasn't impressed at all. My father was being respectful. He was a grahasta, offering respect to renunciates, but no thanks." And then his friend convinced him, so he went. "No, he's different. He's different. Please come. Please come." So this is what ISKCON devotees did subsequently or recently. A nice canopy and a sitting place for BhaktiSiddanta and so forth and so on. This is a BBT painting showing what it could have looked like when they first met. And the dialogue. You all know the dialogue. BhaktiSiddanta, as soon as Prabhupada was seated, he identified, "You're an educated young man, and please take the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and take them to the English-speaking parts of the world," because there was what he was doing within India. He wanted to go outside India, the English-speaking parts of the world, because during this time was British occupancy. People know New England. And Prabhupada objected. You know the story. Prabhupada objected because at that time he was a college student and a Gandhi follower. And as a Gandhi follower, he gave a Gandhi argument. The Gandhi argument was, who's going to pay attention to us coming under British subjugation about the message of ancient India. People will laugh at us. People won't pay attention. And then BhaktiSiddanta, Prabhupada explained, for 20 minutes, he just, as you see, he's scolding him. It is not dependent upon time or circumstance or anything, or governments, or the need is now. The message is compelling, and you're one who takes a compelling message. You say fire, the house is on fire. It doesn't matter. People are going to pay attention because the house is on fire. So he repeated the message. So Prabhupada said from that time, he accepted him as his spiritual master because he spoke so strongly and so purely. Here's part of the message. All those conditioned souls who consider apparent impediments to their happiness as harmful, or the cruelty of the Supreme Lord, see only the first move in the chess game. They are unable to foresee what lies beyond the fourth and fifth move. He was. Conditioned souls can't. In other words, conditioned souls are very much engaged in problem solving. There's always problems. And what do you do when you have a problem? You try to solve the problem. And then the intelligence of the worldly person or conditioned soul gets, all absorbed in the problem and the solving the problem, and forgetting, why is there a problem? What's behind? If you forget Krishna. So he was able to think a little differently than most people. Here's the place where the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you see this big white structure. He took the responsibility, requested by his father, to establish the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with a nice structure. So there's the structure. You see in the photograph, there's lots of pilgrims. Who knows, it's probably an ISKCON party visiting the place. Here is on the altar, inside that temple, there's the Adhoksaja Vishnu deity. Here's a close-up of the Adhoksaja Vishnu deity that Jagannath Mishra, Lord Chaitanya's father, worshipped. In other words, when they were excavating the foundation for the temple, it dug down and down and down and down and down, and lo and behold, there's the deity that his father worshipped. Here's a little history. I'm going quickly, but it's a nice little detail. One of the things that Bhaktivinoda Thakur found is that shortly after the departure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the course of the Ganges shifted. So where the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the house of Jagannath Mishra was now under the river. And then later, because he looked at maps, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had access to many things, and then the map showed that the Ganges then later shifted back to more like what it was during Mahaprabhu's time. And then after some time, Navadvip was built. It was a new city on the western side, but the history says Mayapur was on the eastern side of the Ganges. So that's not the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. Anyway, it's a long story. He was risking his life to say it's not over there, because livelihood for Bengalis it's over there. And he's saying it wasn't over there. Ooh. He was risking his life to make statements like that. And then went door to door. Many things happened. And he went door to door asking every gentleman for 1 rupee to help build a temple. He was sticking his neck on a block, ready for someone to chop it. There were threats for his life, and he did it anyways, because it was right. was very bold. And so then his son built the more formal temple. And this is what they found, because underneath where the Ganges had been underground was now not underground anymore. And they found the deity. And here's some other details of his life. Already, we heard about his 1933 discourse. He spent 1 month in the city of Dhaka, spoke on one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 111 Bhagavatam, for 1 month, without repeating himself. Try it. People were astounded because his speaking was so powerful. And in March 1933, this book called Sri Krishna Chaitanya was published, mentioned here as Nishikant Sanyal. He was a professor at in a college in Orissa, and together, BhaktiSiddanta and Professor Sanyal, they co-authored many things. This particular book was waiting and waiting. You see the logo, the Gaudiya Math logo on the cover. This is what they were. This is volume 1 of 2 volumes, very thick book. They were the devotees that went to London were supposed to take this book with them. It wasn't ready yet, so they had to wait, because he wanted them to take the teachings and the life of Lord Chaitanya with them. So finally, in May, they went to London. They had a little mini place that they established in London. Didn't last long. They came back, kind of like not so successful. Here's a photograph of BhaktiSiddanta you see in the middle. And they had very large kirtan party. Of course, there's sannyasis in the front, but many grahastas and many devotees. This is in the city of Navadvip. Hundreds of devotees having uproarious kirtan, and the local people were really upset because their place of business was now shifted. And here they are in Navadvip having big kirtan. So there was a plan by the priests, not just gundas, but priests, to have him killed. So they approached the police and asked the police a 25,000 rupee bribe. Look the other way. We're going to kill him. And they said, look, we take bribes, but we can't take a bribe for this. He's a sadhu. So the police informed their party, this is the day they're going to try to get him. And so a disciple named Keshava Das, now Keshava, or then Keshava Maharaj, the one who gave Prabhupada his sannyas initiation, they did a change of clothes. Because at that time, Keshava was a grahasta, so he changed his clothes to BhaktiSiddanta, and he put on BhaktiSiddhanta's clothes. Because they're like similar stature, tall and thin, and saved his life. In practical, some of his teachings, there's many, I want to go a little bit more quickly because there's a lot. BhaktiSiddanta Sarasvati revealed that Hari Katha is the Swarup Shakti of Harinam. Because we know the verse, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama Eva Kevalam. So, Harir Nama, when it says Harir Nama, what does it mean? It's implicit that the Hari Katha is included. Because just as Krishna is properly worshipped not alone, but with his Swarup Shakti of Shri Radha, recitation of Harinam is incomplete and improper unless accompanied by hearing Hari Katha. Nice? Got it?
Yeah.
I hope so. Because they go well together. Radha and Krishna. Here's taken from, he made a commentary on the entire Chaitanya Bhagavat. And this is what he writes in Chaitanya Bhagavat. The characteristics of Prahlad are described in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The characteristics of Dhruva, described in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, pictured on the left over here, was the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Gaurasundar was the listener. He attentively heard topics of Prahlad and Dhruva's cultivation of devotional service from the mouth of Gadadhar hundreds of times. Meaning he didn't just go to the 10th canto and rasa dance and all those things that Prabhupada would speak about. Hundreds of times. Here he's posing for a photograph. This is at his headquarters, and he invited the governor of Bengal, because it was still British rule. The governor of Bengal, named John Anderson, came to visit him, and they, received him nicely, had their meal at a table and chairs, and, in the ways that the British people would understand and appreciate. And John Anderson had a lot of high regard for BhaktiSiddanta. There's a close-up of his nice smile in that same photograph. Some years passed. Prabhupada, as a householder, had a son, two sons, and one time during this visit to Vrindavan, maybe you can see in the background there, on the side of Radhakund, doing parikrama around Radhakund, and BhaktiSiddanta is giving instruction to his disciple who hadn't left for India yet, or for America yet. But if you ever get two things, again, reiterating, go to the West. Second is, you ever get money, print books. Those two instructions were very prominent instructions. There's BhaktiSiddanta, Sarasvati Thakur at Radhakund, that painting. And he also spent some time, BhaktiSiddanta spent some time, as did his father, at Radhakund. They're Pushpa Samadhis of BhaktiSiddanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and one of Prabhupada's godbrothers or BhaktiSiddhanta's disciples. When he stayed at Radhakund, this is a pretty fancy chair, nice arm stretch out there, and very simple, wooden furniture and little bed and bucket to get water for bathing, and that was it. His paraphernalia in a little glass case, you can see in the photograph there. Krishna Balaram, he done. A walking cane and his shoes in the same place. He, BhaktiSiddanta, established a temple called Radha Kunjabihari Temple, very near to Radhakund, not at Radhakund, but very near. It shows a little map where that place is. And the photograph on the right is the temple. And here's the deities in that temple. On the left side, it's winter time, so they're all bundled up. There's BhaktiSiddanta with a little beard because it's during the Kartik month. And there's the deities on the right side. Radha Kunja Bihari. Radha Kunja Bihari and Mahaprabhu. Deities that he personally worshipped at this location. Here's a nice statement I like. God is a shelter for all. He sends many obstacles and inconveniences to those who wish for shelter under him in order to test their ardor and steadiness. So if you ever have some tough time, you know why. It's mercy. Krishna is giving you some mercy to test your ardor and steadiness. Listen to this one. When asked to disclose his swarup, meaning his spiritual form, BhaktiSiddanta Sarasvati replied that the swarup of Paramahamsas, like Srila Bhaktivinoda and Sri Gaurkishore Das Babaji, is as they appear in this world, for their bodily features are transcendental and eternal. Such devotees are Gora Nija Jana, personal associates of Lord Chaitanya. Wow. Then, Gaurangera Sangi Jana, Sangi Gane, Nitya Siddha Kori Mane. Gauranga's associates should be understood as eternally perfect, eternally established in service to Krishna as his eternal associates. He explained that devotees of Lord Chaitanya have two eternal forms. In Gaura Lila, they appear in male bodies, and in Krishna Lila as females. The form they manifest in Gaura Lila is also their eternal swarup. Even their apparent physical imperfections are transcendental. For instance, Lord Chaitanya's associate, Bhagavanacharya, appeared as lame because in Gaura Lila he is eternally so. Similarly, the ostensibly non-Vaishnava names for certain devotees of Lord Chaitanya, such as Jada or Jadu Thakur, are their eternal designations. Far out, huh? He's on another platform. Now there's one more item. Actually, there's more than one more item, but here's a letter that he wrote. I like this. Is his collection of his letters was published in a publication called Patravali, string of letters. I'm overjoyed to hear that your enthusiastic for chanting is increasing. Your enthusiasm for chanting is increasing. As our contaminations are removed by chanting, the Lord's form, qualities, and pastimes will be revealed to us in the holy name. There's no point in making a separate effort to artificially remember the Lord's form, qualities, and pastimes. The Lord and his name are one and the same. This will be understood clearly when the coverings on your heart are removed. By chanting without offenses, you will personally realize all perfections come from the holy name. Through chanting, the distinctions that exists between the self and the gross and subtle bodies is actually gradually effaced. And one realizes one's own spiritual form. Once aware of the spiritual body, as one continues to chant, one sees the transcendental nature of the Lord's form. Only the holy name reveals the spiritual form of the living being and then causes him to be attracted to Krishna's form. Only the holy name reveals the spiritual qualities of the living being and then causes him to be attracted to Krishna's qualities. Only the holy name reveals the spiritual activities of the living being and then causes him to be attracted to Krishna's pastimes. By service to the holy name, we do not mean only the chanting of the holy name. It also includes other duties of the chanter. If we serve the holy name with the body, mind, and soul, then the direction of that service spontaneously manifests like the sun in the clear sky of the chanter's heart. What is the nature of the holy name eventually? These understandings spontaneously appear in the heart of one who chants the holy name. The true nature of Harinam is revealed by listening to, reading, and studying scripture. It is unnecessary to write anything further on this subject. All these things will be revealed to you through chanting. Haribol. What an acharya, huh? otherworldly personality. Srila BhaktiSiddanta Sarasvati Thakur ki jai. So nice to see, nice assembly here at the center. And I'm going to stop and see if any of you would like to discuss some points or raise a question or something like that. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and thank you so much for spending your precious time with us on such an important day. Maharaj,
The appearance day of BhaktiSiddanta. It's one of my favorite days.
and we are very fortunate to have you.
Well, that wasn't by accident. It was by design.
Maharaj, we've heard that Srila Prabhupada, and you've affirmed this message as well, that he was instructed by BhaktiSiddanta Sarasvati to go and propagate Lord Chaitanya's message in the Western world, right? In the English-speaking world.
English-speaking parts of the world.
Okay. What inspired BhaktiSiddanta Sarasvati to learn?
Two things. His father and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because his father had that idea already. Outside. You know, here's you already know. I'll say it again. You already know. The date of Srila Prabhupada's birth, 1896. 1896. That very same year, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, from his own pocket, in English, sent all around the world to universities all around the world a book called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts, in English language, in his own writing. So where'd the idea come from? Where'd the idea for Bhaktivinoda? From Lord Chaitanya. Prithaviti Achayati Nagaradigram. Every town, village in the world. It's not in a geographic area. So that's where the idea came from.
Maharaj, are there any references that you would ask us to learn more about BhaktiSiddanta Saraswati?
Oh, Raya Vishnu start with that. And because he did a lot of work. And, it's compact, but that's a good starting point. Raya Vishnu.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anyone else? All the way in the back?
I heard you say that Bhaktisiddhanta wrote commentary on Caitanya Bhagavat.
Yes.
Is it available?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, the Chaitanya Bhagavat is the earlier, it's many things, but the earlier life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vrindavan Das Thakur was very familiar with the earlier life of Lord Chaitanya. And then the latter life of Lord Chaitanya is a main emphasis in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's certainly some activities of Mahaprabhu as when in Little Nimai, but much more in further detail. Purposely, when Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita, he made it an attempt to not duplicate what was already available in his childhood, what was already described. So he described other things, largely. But in Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's his childhood pastimes, up to the point of taking sannyas and going to Puri, primarily.
So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary is on what
Chaitanya
Vrindavan
Bhagavat.
Thakur wrote.
No, it's his commentary on what Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote in Chaitanya Bhagavat.
Okay.
There's more details, but that's the simple.
Thank you.
And it's available. It's a nice publication. You can find it online, digital online, and printed also.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, like, BhaktiSiddanta Saraswati Thakur wrote commentary on Brahma Samhita.
On
Brahma Samhita.
Yes, he did.
That's available, I think so, right?
That's available also. Yeah, BBT.
BBT. Yeah, it's very, like, one time I try to read, but
The language is high.
language is so high. Like Prabhupada, like we heard, like Prabhupada commentaries and Prabhupada purports is very easy to understand for
very
like
easy,
us.
yeah.
But BhaktiSiddanta Saraswati is like very highly language. So like Gadadhar Pandit and they read Bhagavatam. So they wrote commentaries on that, or like
No. Gadadhar Pandit was just reciting. Mahaprabhu was, and others, but Mahaprabhu every day, at Gopinath temple. Every day, Mahaprabhu would bring prasad and sit and listen. You see the deity of Gopinath and sit and listen to the Bhagavatam every day. He did certain things. He was very, regulated in what he did, and he loved. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. I think it's time to end. So I brought with me